Survivor 43, it's here. And kind of at this point, I look at it in the terms of, was it really woke or was it not? And that's kind of how I view my entertainment in media these days. And the first episode of Survivor 43 here, week 1, 2-hour premiere. It is not that woke, but it's pretty basic. Not a whole lot happens necessarily. We do learn a bunch of the new castaways on Survivor 43. We kind of learned them before. If you actually kind of looked it up a little bit, read up on them, listened to some things, you could learn about the cast before the season premiered. But in the show, we got to learn more about them, and it's a pretty basic premiere. There wasn't really a whole lot that happened. It's basically like the same setup we had in 41 and 42. I don't know why Jeff is continuously saying, Survivor 43, they're going to have things that are different. We're going to do things different. They basically had the same format going into 43 here, and I mean, it's okay, I guess, but, it's kind of the same types of twists and challenges and whatnot that we had in the first two, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of some of it, but it is what it is. I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts on the week 1 episode of Survivor 43 here. You're not really going to get too much in-depth thoughts on Survivor here and the deep, diving into the deep plays and the gameplay itself. But I'm kind of like a long-time casual viewer of this series, and I just kind of want to, tell you how I feel about it. And I started kind of covering this show because of some of the really ridiculous woke stuff they started doing, and especially season 41, where it's just my weekly entertainment for this show got interrupted by, once again, something that is infecting all of our entertainment. And now I just kind of feel like, I want to talk about it. I like to talk about it. I like to give my thoughts about this show. I don't see a lot of people necessarily, on my perspective, talking about Survivor. I just kind of want to give my thoughts on it. So 43 premiere, pretty basic. Kind of giving me the same feeling that 42 did at the beginning, where, it's not that woke. 41 was a disaster woke-wise. Like, there was this stuff everywhere. But 43 starts out like 42. There's not a whole lot really going on. It's just a basic Survivor season. The castaways are fine. They're okay. There's nobody necessarily shining. There's no shining star, I guess, amongst this group of people. At least as of yet. There is one in particular person that I guess could be. But again, overall, there's not really that many shining stars as of yet. But I'm going to go through here my notes. There's a few people that did stand out to me, though. I'm going to name them right now. It's Cody. I think a few of the people that I do follow, following Survivor and stuff, they do also mention that Cody's kind of like a standout character. I kind of like his personality and just how he may go forward in the game. Again, I don't know what his personality will be like going forward into the game. We haven't really gone too deep into the game yet, of course. But based on this first episode, I do really like Cody, and I think I'm going to like him through the season. I don't know how far he'll go. Keeping him around would definitely be good for my viewing, because you need some really entertaining and interesting people on Survivor to really keep my interest. Another person that kind of stood out to me just a little bit was Sammy. He's like the 19-year-old who's pretending to be 22 years old. I think they just gave him enough screen time. That's kind of why he's on my list here of people that kind of stood out. I think Sammy kind of had one of the more significant screen times rather than even Cody. I don't think Cody really necessarily had much to do in the first episode, but it was just those few moments where they had his clips and just his personality. I think he can really bring a lot of interest, an interesting dynamic and conversation within season 43 here, and we'll have to see how far these players go. I mean, I literally am only picking out 2 that really stood out to me for now. It is only the first episode. Things can change a lot. I could end up not liking these people, these castaways, later in the season, or they could get voted out. Either way, but as of the first episode, the first week, I do like these 2 players right here, and I'm curious to see how far they'll go and if I will like them going through the season. But of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, the woke stuff is kind of one of the big things I always look out for now for my entertainment in general, not just Survivor. And unfortunately, it's just kind of something that's on my radar now. I kind of wish it wasn't. I really just don't wish it wasn't. I wish I could just be watching it and not have any worries about it at all and not be looking out for it. But the way the world is now and the way our entertainment is now, I'm always on alert. It's just the way it is. I can't help it. And there are just things you notice now. There's just things you notice with Survivor, and it's not over the top. It's really not that bad as we've seen in the past, like that one tribal council moment with Drea last season in 42. There's not a whole lot in this episode, but they kind of had that like throughout 42 and 41, just very light, subtle. There's always those light moments throughout the last few seasons where it's a little bit of woke stuff, but it's not enough to really take you out of the entire episode, entire game. You could still watch it, basically feel like, okay, whatever, I can skip past that. I don't have to really think about it too hard. But there are little things that I do want to mention here. And I mean, at the beginning, he had, I don't even remember his name at this point. He's like, I'm so happy I could finally see someone like myself win Survivor. They mentioned someone in the past who had won Survivor, and he was a black player, and he was super happy that he could finally relate to someone who had won Survivor. He could look up to someone who won Survivor and say, oh, I can win Survivor too. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but I mean, honestly, you can really look at anyone. You can look at someone's personality and say, hey, I relate to that person too. Doesn't matter what they look like. Doesn't matter if they look like me or not like me. It doesn't really matter. I can relate to that person based on their personality and experiences. And I mean, whatever, it's just a little thing I noticed. It's just kind of those talking points I like to throw in whenever they're talking now. We also had some girl power alliances. You know, you gotta have the all girls alliance that pops up within the episode, and honestly, this is a case for both boy and girl alliances. In Survivor, they just never really seem to work out, at least that I've noticed. They don't ever really seem to go as planned. Whenever you see these groups of girls or the guys get together and say, all right, we're going to do an all guys alliance, we're all going to do a girls alliance, and overall just never ends up working perfectly like they want it to. I mean, it can work sometimes, probably worked in the past several times, but as of recent, I've really noticed it just never works. It never really ends up working the way they want to, and it's just kind of an annoying thing to listen to whenever they try to build up their alliances at the beginning here. They're trying to figure out what they want to do. They're on their like 6-person tribe or whatever, and they're like, okay, there's like 3 girls. Let's just all band together, and we're an alliance now. And oh, there's 3 guys. All right, we are an alliance now because we are guys, and we're gonna pick off the girls, and we're gonna pick off the guys, and we're gonna get them off our tribe because that's just how we're gonna do it. We're not gonna play the game at all. We're just gonna say, oh, there's a girl. All right, it's all team up, and that's how we'll play. Sometimes it could work, but I've noticed a lot recently that it just doesn't seem to work too much. We also had our LGBT moment where we had to have our 2, at least at the moment, characters who had come out and, you know, had to make their statement right in the first episode, let us all know about their struggles in life, about how their families have abandoned them and how terrible they are and how tough their lives are in 2022, a very accepting time in our world where their lives are just terrible and they're overcoming terrible evils within our current world. We had to have that moment, but spoilers for, of course, the tribal council at the end. We have Mariah, basically the most visual standout of the season 43. Obviously, you could tell from 43, all the cast photos and stuff, she is the most visually interesting person, I guess you could say, on the tribe, but she didn't really stand out too much throughout the episode. It was mostly just, you know, her visual appearance, I suppose, with the clothing she was wearing, all these rainbows and whatever. She was the one that was voted out. I don't really feel much yet. You know, the season just started, but she's not necessarily a character or a castaway that I felt much for throughout this first episode, so I don't really feel much for her leaving. And I gotta say, there's not too many annoying people yet. I know I've made a video saying that there are a few people in their, you know, their bios and descriptions, these castaways, that they've said that, you know, they got some woke ideas and they got some woke agendas and stuff, but they haven't really gone forward with that yet in this episode. Now there's plenty of episodes left. We kind of had this with 42 where they were very quiet on their opinions basically through the whole season, even after the one big Drea moment, and it was kind of weird. You know, they had that one big massive woke meltdown at the tribal council, and then they kind of kept it quiet again the rest of the season, and then before that even it was just very quiet. So at any moment, be aware that Survivor can just full-blown go out and go woke and just kind of dampen my feelings on the whole season again. But Yeah, Survivor 43 premiere. It was okay. It was definitely okay. It was watchable. I guess you could say that because there's been some very unwatchable moments within the Survivor seasons here the past few years. You've definitely seen my videos on them. Never covered a Survivor episode before. This is kind of new for me, but it's kind of fun just to kind of write my notes down a little bit here, give my thoughts on each episode, and I just kind of want to cover it a little bit here each episode as the weeks go on, because I think with Survivor at this point, you're bound to have a complete meltdown at some point during the season, and I'll definitely keep an eye on that, let you guys know if that happens, because I just don't see many people covering Survivor with like a true honest feeling anymore. You know, it's just mostly a bunch of people, I guess you could say Twitter too, where they just like to blindly defend this show and go along with all the woke speak at tribal councils and during the game. You know, they're just all for it. They're all for it. They're all supportive of it. You even got Jeff Probst on the game, encouraging all that stuff. And it's super exhausting to see. I do want to give my personal opinions on the first episode and just give my honest thoughts, because I don't think many people are giving their honest thoughts these days. And it is what it is. So Survivor will be coming back next week. I will hopefully make another video next week for the next episode. And hopefully it's not a woke disaster. This one wasn't. I'm glad it wasn't. It's definitely a good thing. And hopefully they can maintain that going into week 2.